1, 2, 3, 4. Chop, chop, chop.
It's cure of the what now?
Gather the ingredients.
Cure of the what now?
Not much time to prep before it's time to start the show.
Oh!
Guests are arriving.
Cure of the what now?
Everybody's smiling.
Cure of the what now?
A tasty party starting. Now it's time to go. Woo!
Ooh, served hot and fresh.
Itadakimasu.
Hello, recently revived members of the Student Council, and welcome to episode 19 of Cure of the What Now? Yum! The one show where we know it's okay to hug your sadness. If it takes on a physical manifestation or whatever.
Isn't that what the main point of Inside Out was?
Yes, it was, yeah. Although I think Sweet came out first. So... We've got some copyright issues going on here.
Pixar fans of Toei. I have a story about Inside Out that I can't tell you on the podcast.
Who are you as the host?
My name is Kat, and I am just a kitty taking a nap.
Oh, fantastic. And I was worried that you weren't going to wake up.
Get out of my dream, ghost! Ah! Wait, I'm the ghost. We're in a scrunkly mood today, folks. Let's go.
Absolutely.
Who are you?
I'm the co-host, Joel, and also... I'm a really haughty recipipi. That is also potentially a reference to a previous season.
I thought you said, I'm a really hot, and then stumbled over your words, and then said recipipi, and I was like, did you find the recipipi in this episode attractive?
I'm a very cocksure recipipi, as it were.
Welcome to the episode. It's late again. Last weekend was a holiday, and we were busy listening to stuff blow up. It's not our favorite holiday.
No, but we were with friends and family, so it would have been a little awkward to record. So sorry for the late episode. Hopefully, we will be back on schedule next week. I also hope to have a special episode. Actually, I guess we'd have 2 special episodes coming up, but I hope to have some more stuff on YouTube coming up soon. I've mentioned this before. Taking care of your mental health is very important, and I think I'm on a bit of an uptick, but things slowed down for a little bit while I was figuring some stuff out in life. But like I said, back to normal, and I've got plans for 2 special videos that are not strictly going to be podcast episodes.
Oh, what are they going to be about?
They're going to be about PreCure.
Nice.
I guess one of them will be strictly related to the podcast, but the other one will be more tangential, so look forward to that.
Exciting. It seems as though perhaps the videos will even be a secret for me, and I'm excited.
I'll tell you what they are, but I'm not going to tell them. If I tell our listeners what I might be preparing, and then I somehow don't upload it because... sometimes it be like that, though. I don't want the angry mobs coming for us.
That's true. The only people who can come for us and be angry are the moms. We don't want the angry moms coming for us, but they're allowed. But an angry mob is just straight out.
What? Okay, so why moms? I'm confused. Are you making a reference?
I thought... because moms and mobs sound familiar, I thought it would be funny, a play on words.
Yeah, no problem. You told me a fascinating fact the other day that, or was it you or it might have been previous co-host Curtis, but someone told me that America has officially killed Karen as a name.
That was me!
That was you. Okay, yes.
Oh, exciting news, everyone. So, Gen Z apparently made the name Karen go extinct in the United States. So, since 2019... there have been no babies born that were named Karen. Not one.
I would say that there were probably no babies named Gertrude. There were probably maybe 1 or 2. I think that in a couple of decades, we'll get Karen as a resurgence.
The article I was reading specifically was like, look, you can see where Karen started to trend as an insult, and you can see where people stopped naming babies that. So, like, they directly lined up.
Interesting. Okay. I wonder if, once the internet became aware, if Richard/Dick became a less common name as well, because it was so... But I think that's been an insult for a long time, so I think people who name their children that are just kind of, like, willing to face it.
Or for a more extreme example, I don't think anybody is named Adolf in the last 20 years, for the most part.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, absolutely. We have a new friend who has come into the Discord, and I do not think that I will be able to cover all of their thoughts from the crew in this episode, but be sure to check out Sparkleside Chats with Magical Girl AU. She is very knowledgeable about PreCure and was answering many of our questions, but also was working through our backlog, so answering quite a few questions that we pondered some time ago. Some of the quick notes are that apparently the kind of potty humor from Heartcatch was actually due to the director, who also worked on a previous show that existed before PreCure, which was Ojamaju Doremi. I've heard of it, but I've never seen anything about it. But apparently he used very similar humor in both shows, but when Doremi aired, the parents were mostly like, yeah, this is fine. But then when Heartcatch came out a couple of years later, they were like, oh, this is kind of weird. There's fairies pooping seeds out of their butts or whatever, which I also don't like, but maybe I'm a product of the same.
Do-Re-Mi also has an extremely round art style.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like Heartcatch. I mean, the director
Gotcha.
isn't in charge of the art style, but I'm sure, they're involved because they are directing the show.
Yeah, so that was fascinating to learn. You and I also pondered in our Heartcatch episode, why is it considered the dark season? Because it has fairies pooping seeds or whatever. And I guess it was that so this is kind of spoilers, not really, but okay, cover your ears if you don't want Heartcatch spoilers. It's the death of Cologne that kind of acts as the dark timeline version of PreCure. I guess I've just seen too many kids shows that kind of deal with death in one way, shape, or form, and it's not like the character's really gone because their spirit is still around and they can still interact and stuff. But I could see how that would allow it to be considered the darkest timeline. But I still think that there's some other stuff that PreCure has done later that I would consider darker, even if the topic of death is a sensitive one for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Speaking of magical girl Ayumi, they had a lot of thoughts to share in the Discord, and at some point, maybe if we get a break week for Delicious Party, we'll have to have her on so they can discuss their thoughts.
Absolutely. We also had a spirited debate about, not spirited, but we talked about which fairies we liked and which ones we didn't like. Anyone who was listening to our previous season heard us talk about how much we really liked Tart because he's just like a fun, goofy character, and Ayumi was a little more lukewarm on Tart, for example. But she did love... Who did she love? There was someone that I was like, oh, I'm not really a fan of them very much. It doesn't matter. Diversity of opinions. Go check out their podcast. They cover not just PreCure, but all sorts of magical girl shows.
Joel?
Yes.
Can I share something that's not really podcast related, except that it happened just now while I'm sitting in this chair?
Sure.
I went for a run before I podcasted, and it's summer, so there's lots of tiny bugs. I just pulled a bug out of my mouth.
Oh.
Very unpleasant.
I'm so sorry.
I just want to say God hates me. So you can edit that out if you want, but...
I'm just trying to figure out, because, like, if you follow the One Piece fandom at all, there's a particular character who people will pretend is their god. They'll oh, blank, why have you forsaken me? And it's kind of a spoiler for later in the series. That's why I'm being kind of weird about it. But I'm just trying to figure out, like, is there a specific character in PreCure? Like, I know we have the joke about the cult of Karurun or whatever, but, like, can Karurun ever forsake anyone? In Christianity, you have, like, the Trinity, and each one has, like, a different, like, function, I guess, and I don't think Karurun would ever make anyone eat bugs.
Well, and, like, Madoka isn't PreCure, but Madoka became the goddess of hope, and
okay.
I have now lost all hope.
Okay, so this is really Madoka or Kyuubi who has done this to you.
Yeah, so why has Madoka forsaken me? The one other thing AU said that I want to shout out and maybe talk to them about in a future episode is that the fairies have a special place to children in Japan, and so I would love to talk about their experiences in Japan and more of what she meant by that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That was the other thing I wanted to point out from all of our back and forth conversations that we've had, is that apparently the target audience for PreCure is actually much younger than we thought. Like, I think she said 2 to 6. It might have been 4 to 6, but younger than you and I assumed, and that would explain why sometimes the series doesn't have continuity, you know? It's kind of like why in Delicious Party, every single time they introduce Yui every episode, they have a little name tag that shows up, and especially and for all the characters is because, I don't know, maybe children that age have a harder time remembering, or maybe they'll watch the episode out of order or whatever.
Well, and you know how I complain about how after Go Princess, they stopped all the direct punching and kicking, and I'm like, that's ridiculous?
Yes.
It makes a little more sense if it's a show for 6-year-olds. At the same time, I will say, I'm curious if Japanese children differ from American children, because there's been some
they have
psychological...
laser eyes. We all know that.
There's been some psychological research that says children generally like to watch shows and read stories about characters that are slightly older than them. So like 4 to 6-year-olds like to see things about 7 to 9-year-olds, and 7 to 9-year-olds like to see things about 10 to 12-year-olds. So that's kind of why we were guessing the ages that we were guessing, but also because how does anybody know how old children are after, 25? They all look like little lumps of half-shapen dough.
Absolutely.
They're growing into people, but they're not there yet.
Not fully baked, I suppose. I will say on the relation to characters' ages, one thing that I was wondering the other day, this was like a month ago, but I never brought it up on the podcast. Apparently, Akko from Sweet is officially the youngest PreCure that we've ever seen. Something about her shortness and the fact that she's in Soda's grade made me go like, that's younger than a lot of other characters, isn't it?
Now I'm going to say something and you're going to go, I don't know, maybe, but didn't I explicitly call that out on the show?
No, I asked you and you looked it up on your phone, but we never talked about it on mic. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
I found this information out from you, but I never talked about it here. So that's a fun fact for today. All right, folks. So I think that about does it for our news and announcements. But I do want to quickly cover what episodes of PreCure we watched this week. We have finished watching Delicious Party 17, Max Heart episodes 16 and 17, as well as Sweet episodes 46 through 48, which are the final 3 episodes. We have finished Sweet PreCure!
I don't know, I'm cheering, but it doesn't feel like a cheering moment. I'm going to miss
Sweet a lot. But let's not focus too much on our thoughts about the season wrapping up, because that's one of the 2 videos I want to release that'll be outside of the regular podcast cadence, is our Sweet retrospective. Next week, we will be watching the next episode of Delicious Party, Kururu and Willing, that the episode, releases, that there aren't any delays or anything. We will be watching at least 2 more episodes of Max Heart. I might try to push everybody to the limit so we can watch 3. Please, I am so tired of Max Heart. And, Catherine, what season are we going to be watching to replace the Sweet spot?
Next, we will be watching Doki Doki PreCure.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited. I love the OP for this season. And also, they have a Glitter Force version.
They do have a Glitter Force version. Now, you had a fun idea that maybe what we would do is one of us would watch the official Doki Doki, and one of us would watch the dub Doki Doki Glitter Force, and I really liked that idea, but we ran into 2 problems. One, the Glitter Force version cut 16 episodes entirely and smushed together a couple of others to the point where it has 19 fewer episodes, so there'd be like a, power disparity, where one of us would watch, 50 episodes and the other one would watch like 31 or whatever the difference was. The other problem is that we're still doing our watch-togethers. We're coming back from a hiatus on that front as well, and one of us would have to sit out watch together in order to not watch the Doki Doki episodes. So instead of one of us watching one and the other one watching the other, we will both be tackling the same episodes. So for next week, we will be watching Doki Doki episode 1 and 2, and Glitter Force episode 1, which combines Doki Doki 1 and 2.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we will be covering, and now we can go into our discussion question. I had one I brought up quite a while ago, around Mother's Day if I recall, and I was like, we should come back to this, and we just keep coming up with other ideas that we want to explore first. So, Catherine.
Yes?
Evil generals play a big part in the series, and a lot of times they have themes or they have distinct personalities. So I want to work together with you to come up with a PreCure season where the bad guys are themed after the sea, the sky, and the land. This does not have to be their core personality. It doesn't have to be like Kyogre and Groudon and Rayquaza or whatever in humanish forms, but I want that to be part of their aesthetics.
Okay, it's easy. We've got Thundurus, Landorus, and Tornadus.
Absolutely. But
cute versions of those as the fairies, maybe.
Okay. And then the secret fourth general who shows up at the mid-season could be the new Cupid one that showed up.
Sorry, you were in the middle of saying something and I had to make a funny joke.
Well, I was just asking you, how would you do a season with those three villains? You know, do you have any thoughts?
I like that as a theme for the villains. But because those are nature kind of oriented, it makes it challenging to craft a villain around.
Well,
maybe like the villains would be causing natural disasters to harness despair.
Okay. See, I was kind of thinking, like, it doesn't have to be their thing. It could kind of be, like, a motif about them. Does that make sense? Like, their real thing could be that they hate technology or something, and then the cures that face them could be all about how technology enables us to live better lives or whatever. And they just happen that one of them flies around and has a bunch of flying monkey minions or whatever the case may be, bird minions, and then one of them is like a merman or something like that and has a bunch of fish, guppy minions, and then the land person could, I don't know, be on a dirt bike or something.
He could just, like, tunnel.
Okay, yeah, he's a worm. I want the sky flying one to be a lady pirate. I want her to go around on a flying ship. I don't know if the ship would be like a real ship that's big enough to house all of her minions, or if maybe she has like some kind of like flying skateboard that just happens to in the shape of a boat, but it's like really small. Like she's big enough that she can like step on it, and that's her whole thing.
I love that. That would be so fun.
So flying can kind of be associated with like freedom. That's a pretty common thing. What character trait might you give like a wet person, an ocean person, a swimming person?
They'd go with the flow.
Oh, they'd be very laid back, and they would just kind of like go with other people's plans. They wouldn't have their own ideas.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the tides go in, the tides come out. You can't explain that. So why bother trying to explain it?
Will
Just
people
enjoy.
listening to this podcast even get that reference? That was so many years ago.
I don't know who listens to this podcast.
That's true.
Other than occasionally our good friends on our friends on the Discord seem to listen every week. But we've got 2 people on the Discord. We've got Grandpa and sometimes Sherpa Whale on Twitter, who is a friend of mine in real life. I think she will get the reference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But broadly, I don't know what that says about the demographics of our listenership.
Okay, yeah, that's right. They need to be old enough to appreciate memes and old enough to have heard that, but also young enough to not dismiss memes, if that makes sense.
No, I get you. Does he even still have a show?
I have no idea. I don't even remember which one it is specifically. It wasn't the guy who died a couple of years ago, was it?
They drained his blood and gave it all to Tucker Carlson.
Okay, we are done. We are done talking about this. Okay, so we have a goes with the flow water person. We have a kind of free pirate kind of flying lady. So ground a lot of people associate with like the earth element, but like it could also be volcano, so this could be our resident angry boy, because every season has one who's like the warrior, like big muscular, maybe not the smartest kind of a person.
Yes, he's our Kumo Jackie.
Yeah. The Kumo Jackie, or he's kind of like the weird pirate guy, Uraganos, I think his name is, from Max Heart. And
gosh, we'll get into it when we talk about Max Heart, but I do not understand what Uraganos' deal is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree. Also, really quickly, sometimes they introduce a secret general later on in the season. PreCure did that really well, I think. But I think the fourth one could very easily be space themed.
I love that. What would be the thing they serve?
See, I don't think
would it just be entropy?
I don't think it matters. You know, like the theme in Star Twinkle is that the bad guys are a Kappa, a Cyclops, and and a Tengu. And then they also, once the guy shows up, he's, I guess, kind of like an ogre or something. But that's not really related to the space theme. I guess it relates to, like, the outer worlds, creativity kind of a thing. But I don't think that they necessarily need to be environmental is what I was trying to get at earlier. So, like, the bad guy could be, like, you could just be after jewels, man. You could have, like, happiness jewels or something, and people take them, and the flying lady, like, swoops in to take them, and the lava guy, like, punches people to take them or something like that. The astronomer or astrology character could have, like, a telescope and, like, spies them from afar and does, like, long-distance attacks. And then the water person could be a little, like, sneaky or whatever, kind of, like, swims under the radar.
Ooh, swims under the radar. I love it. So, with that out of the way, do you have some succinct summaries for me?
Absolutely. So in Delicious Party 17, Amane has woken up and everyone's like, oh, good, Amane's back, but something seems wrong. Also, we get a crystalized hoka heart from the Cook Kingdom, and Mary's like, I need to figure out what we're going to do with this, and a recipipi appears with it. It's one we've seen previously, actually. It's the one that Amane drew on her little notebook back when she had her identity crisis. It turns out Amane wants to she wants to retire as student council president, and she wants the vice president to take over. The vice president's very sad because the vice president's like, one time I was sad and you gave me fruit and now I'm not sad. So I want you to be happy. I don't want you to quit. And she's like, nah, I'm going to quit. Narsatoru has decided to get serious by creating the wackiest Ubazao that we have seen yet. The girls are able to defeat it with the help of black pepper, and then they go, hey, Amane, you look like you could be the secret 6th Ranger / mid-season cure. How about it? And she goes, no thanks. And that's where the episode ends.
That wasn't much of a choice at all.
No, her choice was to leave the student council.
Okay.
By the way, I saw that on the Wikipedia last week. What else did we watch? Sweet! 46, 47, 48, all of these episodes kind of blend together, but basically, the girls decide to try to defeat Noise. He absorbs Falsetto first and recovers his health, and like, holy crap, he got better. And then they start beating him up, and he tries to absorb Hibiki, and then who enters the battlefield but baritone and bass drum? And they save her, and they're really mad, because they're like, Falsetto really trusted you, man. You ate him? And Noise is like, yeah, and he'll eat you too as well, and eats them. And they're like, oh no! And eating the minor trio allows the dragon bird thing to turn into a human bird thing.
Hot dude.
A really hot dude who looks exactly like Elemental Hero Avius, or whatever it's called, from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
You just reminded me of the best cinnamon bun in all of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yes, absolutely.
Yuki is absolutely flawless.
Absolutely flawless. And then he turns into human form, and then they decide to fight him again, but Hibiki's like, wait, what if we tried to talk no jutsu him? And so she tries to talk to him and figure out what his deal is. He explains that he's literally the embodiment of sadness, and for half a second, it looks like Sweet PreCure's answer to what if I have depression is just try smiling harder.
Don't.
Just stop being sad. And I did not like that. But then in episode 48, the final one, first off, Hami's in a coma. Getting that many notes inside the legendary score at once was life-draining, I guess. And also, she got eaten by the bird.
I was gonna say, you left out a very important point from last episode. She got eaten.
Well, here's the thing. These last episodes are blending together. At one point I said something like, oh, Noise-sama has been revived, but we have like 8 more episodes. So first, Noise attacked, and then they had to defeat it. And then Noise attacked again, and then Odakichi and Crescendo Tone had to defeat it. And then Odakichi sacrificed himself. And then Crescendo Tone sacrificed herself. And then they ran away. And then they fought again. And then Falsetto was killed. And then they ran away. And then Hami showed up. And then Hami got sucked up. And then they ran away. And then they fought Noise-sama again. And the other two got, like... There's a lot happening.
There's a lot. Important order of events in these episodes are Noise ate Falsetto because he was annoying. It went back to go fight the PreCure, and the PreCure went, baritone and bass drum said, hey, he ate them too. Then Hibiki was like, my friends? And he's like, I'll eat you too, bitch. And then Hummy's like, no, and jumped in the way. And Hummy sang a song inside of Noise, and for a second you thought that would help, but then Noise was like, no, I'm sad.
But then later Hummy starts singing again, and it helps.
Yes. Also, the way they defeat Noise in that episode is they hold his hands hard enough that he blows up.
Yeah. Hibiki holds his finger because the proportions of these monster things are weird, but yeah, she takes his hand, and with your hand in mine, I think are the lyrics from one of the Sonic games or something.
That's one of our openings.
Oh, it is? Good job. Good reminding.
My opening I wrote is good enough to be in your memory as one of the Sonic games.
So, yeah, a lot is happening, but they defeat Noise, and I thought they were going to do it in a way that I thought was not helpful. But then in the final episode, after they wake Hami up, we'll probably talk about that in the not succinct summary, but once they wake up, the girls go, hey, Pii-Chan's back, and Pii-Chan has been reborn as Pii-Chan the White. They don't call him that, obviously.
Odakichi is ready to draw a sword, ready to throw hands. He's ready to go with the
Odakichi is like my mortal enemy. And the girls are like, nah, man, cute little bird guy. We can live with our sadness, and we can accept it. And so I guess Pii-Chan is just going to be their pet. I'm not sure if they, like, all go to different colleges, which one gets to keep Pii-Chan. But Pii-Chan just exists in this world, and we find out that Akko and Ellen are going to stay in the human world. It's not explicitly stated that they're leaving Harmony Land or Major Land, but in the credits you see them living human lives. So I guess they just don't go there anymore. Yo, he don't go there. She don't go here.
You can't sit with
us. Anything?
Finally, what happened to Max Heart this week?
We meet the next heartiel, and I think this heartiel is my second favorite after Passion.
Her name is Intelligen.
Intelligen, which I think is also the company in the new Jurassic Parks. Honestly, I think the first episode is about, like, Nagisa read in a fortune book one time that she was going to be lucky, and then she wasn't lucky, and then Honoka wanted to do science so hard that she reinvigorated her love for science, which she apparently didn't know why she loved science, so that's interesting. And those have all been your succinct summary!
Excellent succinct summaries, babe. What would you like to discuss first?
Let's get the vegetables out of the way. Any thoughts on Max Heart in particular?
The Honoka episode was confusing to me.
It was. I agree.
Because everyone was like, let's do a science, and she was sad because do they really want to do a science? Do I really want to do a science? And then she made something, and she was like, I like doing a science. And she went back to the club, and she was like, everyone, we should all enjoy doing a science together. And they went, yes, let's enjoy doing a science. And then the episode was over.
Yeah, so it's a callback to a previous episode from Futari Wa, in which she built a weather machine, or like a machine that would help them study the weather, understand the weather, and they won first prize because Honoka is so good at science. And that episode was about Honoka's relationship with the vice captain of the club. I don't know if that's her title, but like the only other named character in the club. This episode didn't have any of that focus. What it had was like Honoka being worried that she doesn't actually enjoy the science club, which is fascinating. You know, you don't see a lot of people who regret joining the club that they're in or no longer like it as much as they used to. But at the same time, she seemed good at science for the last 49 episodes, 56 episodes. So the existential crisis kind of came out of the blue. But I really don't have anything else to say. Oh, nope, I lied. In the PreCure server, I mentioned, like, I watched episode 15 last week. This was after our last episode went up, and I went, I don't get it. And someone was like, you don't get it. Episode 15 of Max Heart is, like, my favorite in all of PreCure. And I was like, oh, really? Wow, okay, why? And they basically said, oh, I just love Honoka and Nagisa so much. And I went, oh, that's the problem. I don't care about Honoka and Nagisa and Honoka as people. I don't care about Poloon. I don't care about Mipple or Meppel.
It only took us, 76 episodes for you to decide that you don't care about them?
Well, I think that's been my problem this whole time, and I kind of want to find someone who's like a huge Honoka and Nagisa fan and sit down with them and just like keep asking questions about like, okay, so what do you like about them? When did you know you love them? What's the main character trait that they share? Because my analysis, as flawed as it probably is, because I have a hard time with my biases, but it feels like Nagisa's character is that she doesn't want to do anything. She doesn't know how to be a good lacrosse person. I don't really feel the passion that she has for playing lacrosse. Her stuff with the Fuji P annoys me because she can never actually get out of her own butt and do something about it. And she doesn't want to be a PreCure because she's annoyed all the time that she wants to just live a normal life and eat a bunch of potato chips. Maybe that's a good representation of what a normal middle schooler would be like if they were suddenly told, the fate of the world rests upon your shoulders. But I just don't care.
I will say, in recent seasons, I feel like the lead of the team has been exceptional in one way or another. I appreciate that Nagisa is so aggressively average. Like, she's just a regular person, but she's doing her best. So, I can see what Nagisa Honoka fans like about the two of them. It just doesn't register for me. Other characters in PreCure, other main cures, they're brightly colored and they have cool attacks, you know? And like Love is all friendly and upbeat and fun. So
well, and that's like kind of the other thing too. If you go to the Wikipedia page for each of this series, they have each of these seasons have a theme and a motif. And like the themes and motif of Heartcatcher, like being your best self, and it's about kind of like what makes people special, their heart flowers. I don't know exactly how I'd phrase it, but the heart flowers are a key component. And if you go to Star Twinkle, they talk about imagination a lot, and they talk about accepting other people and all this other stuff. And you go to Go Princess, and it's about following your dreams. But you go to the Wikipedia page for PreCure, the first one, Futari Wa, and it says, the main motif is yin and yang. Okay. And I get it. Sometimes opposites do attract, and I think that Honoka does a good job of balancing Nagisa. In Nagisa kind of is reluctant, and Honoka is more like dutiful. So I get how they complement each other in that way, but like, what's the theme? What did the bad guys represent? What does the bad guy represent? And it's like, it's Saturday morning, like, I'm a generic evil villain who wants to do evil villainy, and his generals are, we want to do evil general evil things because we are evil and we serve the bad guy. And it's like, okay, where's the plot? Like, I assume in Sailor Moon, someday I'm gonna watch Sailor Moon, but I assume the different characters, like, play off of each other and have, like, different insecurities and stuff, but in Nagisa Honoka, it's Nagisa says something about, like, wanting to eat food, maybe gets a phrase wrong because she's kind of empty-headed. Honoka gently corrects her. A bad guy shows up, and they unleash their special attack. Sometimes they don't unleash their special attack right away, because there's 3 more minutes in the episode, but then when they decide it's time to use their special attack, nothing ever stops them from using their final attack. It's just, I don't want to drag anyone down. If this is your favorite season, that's awesome. But I'm just saying, if you think the reason that Max Heart is the best is because of Nagisa and Honoka, I will simply say, I don't get Nagisa and Honoka. They're blank slates. I don't hate them, but I don't really get them either.
They just don't do it for you.
You mentioned something about Uraganos and wanting to talk about his thing and how confusing it is.
Somebody will say something, and then completely unrelated, he's like, you're saying that I'm the strongest and I'm going to beat the PreCure. And then he just gets up and leaves. And I like the way it's played for laughs with the one character who's like, don't interrupt me when I'm talking, because at this point it's a meme.
Yes.
But it bothers me that, like, it's not connected at all.
Yeah. It's like
his motivations don't make sense to me, is what I'm trying to say.
It's like Chris Hemsworth, the blonde one, the one who plays Thor with the hammer, in the 2016 Ghostbusters movie. He's supposed to be like this really stupid character, but at one point I think he says something about like, it's so bright he can't even hear, and like that doesn't even, like, I get the joke. You're stupid, but, like, no one's that stupid, and Uraganos is almost like no one's that stupid, right?
Absolutely.
I do appreciate that the villains have a little bit of character between them, so in episode, we watched 16 and 17, in 16, they decide who's going to attack the PreCure by rock, paper, scissors, and, like, that's kind of cute, because they all, think that they're the head boss or whatever. And then, again, like you said, Uraganos occasionally will cut people off, or he will leave while Dracula is talking, and Dracula will be like, hey, let people finish talking, like, listen to them. But, I mean, it's still not as flavorful or interesting or colorful as later seasons.
Yep.
So, which would you like to tackle next?
I want to talk about Delicious Party next because I feel like I have a lot to say about the sweet finale.
Okay. How are you feeling about Amane's character now that she's returned to the spotlight?
I don't care for her.
Yeah?
I understand the inner conflict of I've done bad things, and do I deserve good things? Do I deserve to be the student council president? Do I deserve to be PreCure? But we've seen it in Setsuna, and Setsuna was a more interesting person.
Yeah, they've done this in Sweet, they've done this in Fresh, and they have done this in Go Princess. And we didn't like Go Princess, but we loved Go Princess, but we didn't love the secret for sixth cure in that season. And we did like the two characters that happened in Sweet and Fresh. So, but yeah, I don't think they did a good enough job communicating it. Like Nagisa and Honoka, it's like I get what they're trying to do, but I don't think they expressed it. Absolutely,
and I'm hoping she develops more personality as she comes out of her shell. But we already have kind of a one-note, shy, reserved character, and that's Kokone.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to do with Amane? Is she going to be like Team Mom?
Amane is, oh my gosh, she packs snacks for everyone when they're so forgetful and stuff like that. I would love that.
Imagine her and Kokone getting into like a glaring match because they both brought snacks for Yui. And Yui's just like, hey, double snacks.
I love that a lot. Also, we see a flashback that isn't relevant exactly. It is relevant, but it's not directly relevant. But she does karate with one of her brothers. I believe Yuan. I'm not going to be able to tell them apart.
She looks cute in a ponytail.
She looks great in a ponytail, and I wonder if maybe... because, like, Kokone is pretty focused and pretty studious, but, like, there's a difference between someone who, like, reads a lot and someone who is, like, the karate black belt, and so maybe that'll be Amane's personality, but... we were wondering if Amane's choice was going to be, is she going to become a PreCure? Because it seems pretty obvious, like, even if you don't know any spoilers, this is following a very noticeable pattern from previous seasons, and in this episode, the Hoka Hoka Crystal Heart shows up. But it turns out, no, she's not into it, man. She's just, she'll pass. So I'm very curious. We usually look ahead later in the episode, but, like, do you think she's going to need a lot of convincing? Do you think they'll try to convince her and one of them will succeed? Or do you think that they'll try to convince her, fail, and she has to convince herself?
Yeah, I think next episode, her special Pii-Pii is going to be in trouble, and that's when she'll step in and be like, I might not deserve to be a PreCure, but I've got to protect that Pii-Pii.
Mm-hmm. It's like how every single one of the Star Twinkle girls got their transformation after they try to protect Fua, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. I hope we get a name for the parfait recipipi, because if it's just the parfait recipipi, I'm going to be like, no, come on, and give them a name.
I wonder if you can love a recipipi so much that it turns into one of those creatures. My theory is that maybe the crystal heart thing will be an egg and it will hatch into her animal. Okay. In this episode, we find out, where do babies come from? Apparently a collection of Hoka Hoka hearts. But only if they're magical talking animals.
Yes, absolutely. Also, I can't remember if we mentioned it, but those little hearts that appear whenever anyone eats delicious food in the show, those are Hoka Hoka hearts. They're Kira all basically, and they get absorbed into
something about
recipes.
That makes me think of like a bag of snacks.
Okay.
That like a character would get, like you know those old side-scrolling video games that you were really good at, like Donkey Kong and whatever?
Sure.
I feel like a Hoka Hoka heart is something that you would eat and it would give you a little bit of health back.
Yeah, like a Hoka Hoka heart would be like the special power-up you could buy in the store or something, in like a Banjo-Kazooie or something like that. I could see that. I could absolutely see that.
Any other quotes, moments, anything you want to mention? Also, I think you mentioned this, but Ran is just salivating over these twins.
She has like
the face she makes when she sees them again. Like Ran, babe, put it in your back pocket for later. Final episode has her just walking off arm in arm with both of them.
Neither of them knew that they were in a relationship with her, but they're just kind of like,
Guess this is happening.
This is happening. Okay, so egg on my face. I'm sorry, everyone. Usually I have a scratch pad open that has some of our thoughts that I wrote down while we were watching the episode, and I had a couple that I should have been reading, but I haven't yet. So Intelligen in Max Heart, to go back to that really quick, she loves how hard Honoka is studying. She's like, well, this girl's really studious, and I like studying. That's amazing. And so they're kindred spirits. And at the end of the episode, she introduces herself to Honoka and like, oh, I'm Honoka. And Nagisa goes, oh, I'm Nagisa. And Intelligen goes, not you. Intelligen has no interest in talking to empty-headed girls. She only wants to be friends with the science smarty pants.
And then in the next episode, she lectures Nagisa about why doing math is important. So
yeah, you have to do, even if you memorize the formula, you have to practice in order to learn how to use them.
It's the heartiel of being fun at parties is what Intelligen is.
Absolutely. So at one point, so Narsatoru shows up. At this point, he's been reprimanded by Secret Toru that he hasn't brought in any results, and he goes, okay, I'll try being serious. And he just shows up and he goes, hey girls, got a question for you. What happens if you have one thing and another thing? How many things do you have? And it's like, are you okay? Did you smoke something? Like, did you hit your head? But you see Yui looking at her two hands with one finger on each of them, and she has like this super serious expression on her face. Please look at the thumbnail this week because it's going to be in there. It's the dumbest expression, and I love Yui so much.
It's so cute. Joel and I were like, maybe it's not that she can't count to 2. Maybe it's she's trying to think if there's a trap in his words. But honestly, I think that's giving her too much credit.
Absolutely. The only other thing that I want to quickly shout out is that Black Pepper talks to Precious. He saves her, and she's like, oh, thank you. And he's about to talk in his usual Yusuke Urameshi voice. He's like, oh, yeah. And he goes, you're welcome. He tries to become more of a manly figure for her.
I love that he's like, acting like what he thinks a superhero should be like.
Yes, absolutely. Instead of the dorky teenage boy that he is. Also, at the end of the battle, we see Takumi food shopping, grocery shopping right before Narsatoru shows up. And at the end of the episode, because last time Black Pepper showed up to help him, he just disappeared. But this time he goes, the shopping, and he leaves. He didn't leave to protect his identity. He didn't leave because this is important. He left because Mom's going to be mad if I don't come up with those radishes.
This almost feels, and I've never seen Sailor Moon, so I'm sure, like, Au, for example, might have something to say about this, but it almost seems like they're deliberately kind of making fun of Tuxedo Mask a little bit.
Oh, possibly.
Because, like, he always mysteriously disappeared, right? I'm pretty sure that was his thing, but Takumi is, like, lampshading it a little bit.
Oh,
by
yeah,
being
yeah.
like, I left the oven on.
Oh, man.
My scones!
I hope that we have an episode where Takumi, I mean, this seems like a little bit too, because PreCure doesn't really focus on romance other than, wow, what a cute boy or what a cute girl. But could you imagine if, like, Black Pepper gently caresses or cups the side of Precious's face and be like, Precious, there's something that I've always wanted to tell you for as long as we've been fighting Ubazao together, and she just goes, my casserole, and she just runs off, and he's just like, dude? Okay.
Halfway to her casserole, she pauses and goes, this feels familiar. And she flashbacks to all the times she's done this to Takumi. And then she goes, oh my god, it's Takumi.
I love it. So I don't know if this is a looking ahead question, but I think it could be an interesting discussion question. In this episode, I think I mentioned, so what Narsatoru did to create this Ubazao is he Ubazao 2 different things and then, like, duct taped them together. I think it was like a giant rubber band. And they ended up defeating it by undoing the rubber band. But there was a moment where he was kind of like, now I figured it out. So I think next week they'll be better glued together. And that's why they're going to need what they're going to need. The crystalized hoka heart or whatever. But at one point while they're fighting this thing, Mary points out, oh, go for the point where they're rubber banded together, where they're tied together. That's the weak spot. And they literally disarm this Ubazao because its arm is one of the 2 tools, and then they rip it off and it can't defend itself. It's just legs at that point. But how long until the bad guys kidnap Mary? Because the last couple of episodes, he's been the one to figure out, like, what the strategy is. And that's the whole point. He's the man in the chair who gives them instructions but can't fight himself. So, like, if Narsatoru just, like, comes up and, like, puts him in a knapsack and carries him away, would the other Cures be able to fight whatever Ubazao he summons?
I'm just like Mari being kidnapped. What if they treat him really nicely and they're like, oh, what shade of lipstick do you wear, Mari-chan?
Oh my gosh.
But I think the Cures would overcome eventually. Either that or two of them would fight and the other two would go get Mari.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I really think, you were talking about maybe the parfait recipipi goes in danger, and I think that makes more sense because Amane doesn't have a connection to Mary, but I could see Mary being kidnapped, and then that's the thing that caused them to realize that they need more woman power on the team or whatever, and so that's when they would turn to Amane and be like, please, you don't have to be a PreCure forever, just for this one mission, and then it turns out she really likes it, and she's like, oh, I could join you guys.
Yeah.
But the parfait seems like a much better kind of a setup situation. So, we can move on to the grand finale, the final score.
My big question for you is, did you like this as a finale?
Yes. So, there's a couple of staples that show up in later seasons that are not present this early on. So, a lot of current seasons, I think every season after a certain point, they have a baton pass scene where basically a monster shows up, and I think it's usually the monster from the next season, or maybe it's like some weird one that got left behind by the bad guy. But the current Cures will team up with the lead Cure for next season, and they'll get a brief introduction. But this final episode, 48, did not have that. It did not have the baton pass, nor did it even have a monster that showed up. This was actually a story more about Hami, I would say, than anything else. And I like that, and they did like a kind of roll call at the very end when the music started playing, where it showed them transforming one last time. And it felt more like a performance, It felt like these characters that we'd grown to know and love were coming out and doing one final bow, whereas episodes, like if they had run into whoever is next, it might be I think it might be Keir Lovely is the next season, but if she had shown up and they had transformed one more time, it wouldn't really feel like a finale, it wouldn't really feel like goodbye, it would kind of feel like, oh no, here we go again. And then there was also my comments about how I didn't want it to be just smile when you're sad, but they ended up addressing that actually pretty well, so I
thought
that.
It was a very mature kind of topic for a little girl's show, for a children's show, I guess I could say, because this would be mature for a boys' show as well.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I loved Odakichi and Crescendo Tone, who are dating, by the way.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they're a couple.
They had some proud parent vibes, and that was weird, Odakichi.
Absolutely.
Gosh, does that make Crescendo Tone Ako's grandma? Anyway, when he gets really mad and ready to fight Noise, he's like, that's Noise, and the girls are like, yeah, but noise is just our sadness, and sadness as much as a part of us as happiness is. And then Hibiki tells Noise, we'll always be together, which is a little dark, but okay. But Odakichi and Crescendo Tone say the PreCure have grown beyond us. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was nice.
Yeah, I love that. And it kind of, they didn't really dwell on Odakichi's story, but you could, if you had a slightly more fleshed out version of his story, you could have him be a little too excited. Dude was willing to sacrifice his own children. It seemed like. I don't remember if he actually made a comment about that. But yeah, he, willing to let people die in order to stop Noise, whereas Hibiki and all the others are kind of like, hey, maybe there's a solution to this, maybe we could try kindness. And I think at its core, that's what makes PreCure more powerful. Well, powerful in a different way than, say, One Piece. I don't think that Luffy's going to defeat an enemy by being all right, let's try to understand them. Luffy's going to beat someone by punching them really hard.
Yeah, he didn't tell Crocodile, it's okay, we can be friends. And then Crocodile was like, okay, I'll stop being a bad guy. He told Crocodile, I'm going to punch the shit out of you. And then Crocodile went, okay, maybe we can be friends.
And to be fair, as far as I know, all PreCure have defeated their final villain by punching them. The Talk No Jutsu didn't work. But they tried, which is different than you would get from a lot of shonen. And I guess new shonen like My Hero has a little bit more of that with the main character and the main antagonist. But it's just, it's something that I like to see. I really liked it.
I think this has been one of my favorite final battles because they didn't defeat Noise with the punching or the Talk No Jutsu. They embraced their sadness.
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. And that final couple of episodes, the fight scenes went hard. There's a part when Noise has taken on his human form and he's like way up in the air, and the girls are like, we're going to defeat you. This is after the talking has failed. Negotiations failed. Time to, escalate. They jump up. He uses like a wind blast to knock them out of the sky. And you see Hibiki trying to reach him. Like there's literal symbolism here of her trying to reach up to this man that's like way up in the sky. Man, bird thing, god, whatever he is. And then the other crescendo, or the other fairy tones are like, let's combine our powers and we'll help you reach him. And they give them wings, kind of. One, they don't go on their shoulders or their back, which is where wings attach on, if you draw an angel or a fairy or something like that. And two, they're not shaped like they should actually be able to help them fly. They don't flap or anything like that, but they get these weird hooks that allow them to fly up, and then they fly up and they start fighting Noise.
Little music note wings.
Yeah. And then they were just doing combo attacks. So, like, at one point, Noise tries to attack Akko, but then Ellen shows up and she does her beat barrier thing, and Noise is like, I'm just gonna keep punching this barrier until it explodes, and then I'm gonna get to the gooey PreCure underneath that I'll be able to eat or whatever. But then as the barrier explodes, Akko has used her she's using her bubble attack, and that distracts him for a second, and it also creates a mirage, which gives her time to set up her pentagram of light trap card, and, like, that's cool. I love it when the PreCure work as a team as opposed to three people throwing punches at the same guy at the same time.
I wish there were more combo attacks in PreCure. I really do.
You had Akko and Ellen, who were the two mid-season cures, giving a speech about how they overcame their hardships, and you had Kanade talk about how important her relationship with Hibiki was as they're punching Noisama, which was just fantastic. At one point, Hibiki and Kanade fly in the shape of a heart, and it creates their combo attack from way earlier in the season. Like, it went hard. Maybe not as hard as like some of the movies sometimes go, but it was excellent. I really liked this season.
Yeah, me too. I think it'll be on my top tiers of seasons for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think that's been all of my sweet thoughts. Do you have any thoughts from the crew that you want to share? Sweet sound bites?
I think we have mostly used up our sweet sound bites. The thoughts from the crew channel in the Discord, a lot more text in there than there usually is, and a lot of that was us talking with Ayumi about various things. We've covered like kind of the age range, and we talked about the fairies and all that stuff. So yeah,
it was blowing up. So if you like talking, come join us in PreCure.
Join us in our Discord.
In our
we
Discord,
can talk about
where
PreCure.
we talk about PreCure, yes.
Absolutely. I just remember there was one really cool scene in Delicious Party when after they had like disarmed the Ubazao and they were all attacking like together or in waves. Kakone / Yui did a double Kamen Rider punch, and that went way harder than it needed to as well. There was one frame that I managed to get for the sticker sheet where they were both about to punch him, and I was just like, this is cool.
It was cool. Yes. You used it to threaten violence.
Only against people who deserve it.
Only against people who are themselves violent. Perpetuating violence.
Absolutely. Looking ahead, next episode, wow, they really aren't being subtle here. This is either the cleverest double take, like they're giving us the fakest episode title that has nothing to do with the episode content, or they're just telling us, like, by the way, I want to become a parfait, weird, shine, cure finale.
So here's my prediction for this episode. She declares, I want to be strong like Parfait. I will become a Parfait. And then Cure Parfait shows up and Ryder kicks her in the head. There can only be one. She stumbles to her feet and she goes, Cure Finale it is.
They have to have done that on purpose because there's other desserts. She could have been Cure Melon Pan.
Yeah,
she could have been...
they explained in this episode that Parfait is the ultimate dessert.
I mean, I guess so. So, I guess, what were our predictions when we were talking about the Sixth Ranger? Because we noticed that the first three cures were all carbs. I think I predicted, like, a meat cure or something stupid like that.
You predicted a meat cure. I suggested possibly a potato.
That's right. Oh, yeah, or, like, we were thinking maybe it would be, like, a garnish, but it turns out that's what the Magical Warriors or whatever black pepper is. They're the
seasonings.
The seasonings and stuff. And
oh, my God! The Cook Kingdom Warriors could literally have a Colonel Mustard.
And that has been your toot 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 final thought. Outro goes here. Thanks for listening, everyone. And hey, don't forget, next episode we're starting Doki Doki from the very beginning, so perfect chance to jump on.
Come with us, and to Mana, you can say, hello.
Hello.
Thank you all for joining us for another delicious plateful of
Cure of the What Now.
Please take a moment to rate and review wherever you get your podcasts from.
Or if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to leave a comment, a like, or lick that subscribe bell so you know when the new episodes are going up.
Did you just say lick it?
Well, yeah, we're baking delicious foods. It's a delicious party.
Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Pirate Ghost Host. Please don't lick me.
Can you even lick a ghost? I'm on Twitter at Cotwin_pod.
KOTWN_pod.
Absolutely. And as always, the Discord link is in the Twitter bio and also in the YouTube description.
Come join us for weekly discussions, streams, and all of the PreCure your heart can handle. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yum. Or no, I'm full!